This is a topic that's near and dear to my heart, and it looks like we might have figured it out. Dane, can you hear us a little bit at least?
Yeah, I can hear you.
That's kind of cool. We can hear you too. Wow, this is working. All right. Well, then we'll get this panel kicked off. Minnesota Craft Cannabis Guild would like to welcome everyone here tonight for a panel on cannabis genetics, the art and science of cannabis breeding. We have three presenters with us here tonight. The first is Dr. Clemon Dabney, is a PhD cannabis geneticist, entrepreneur, and columnist who works for Bridges Lab Science and Market Realty. He earned his PhD in plant biology at the University of Minnesota, where his dissertation and peer-reviewed research helped clarify how cannabinoid traits are inherited and mapped across the cannabis sativa genome, including contributions to the chromosome-level assembly linking for CBD production, to hemp introgestion, CBDRX. He has co-authored work validating CBD-based prediction of THC-CBD ratios and chemotypes for pheno, clinical, and industrial cannabis. He has been recognized by the Bell Museum for advancing cannabis genetics. Dr. Dabney is founder and CEO of Doc Dabs, a Minnesota hemp-derived edibles company, and writes on policy, history, and industry for the Star Tribune. He speaks nationally on cannabis science and equity and has been profiled among many influential figures in Minnesota's emerging cannabis market. I have a little bit further to deep dive on that, but we'll get to it as we touch more on all of the great work that Dr. Dabney has done here in the cannabis sciences within Minnesota. We're also joined from Chris Moe. Chris is the owner, breeder, and connoisseur at BP Seed Co. He's been growing for nearly 30 years and has started breeding more recently. He's had a heavy influence from his brothers, and it's been a family passion that he's been able to share and now do so deeply. And then up above us, we have Dane from Thiesen from Skunk Really Works. Skunk, Dane, I don't really have a good bio for you, and I'm going to apologize, but I've known Dane for several years now and been just incredibly impressed with his work and his genetics, his work with home growers to expand and give goodwill to all has always been top of the list for me. And in fact, why don't we start there? Dane, do you want to give us a little background on yourself that I've not done as well on as I should have?
Sure. It's a great honor to be here, obviously. So thanks for sharing that. I started this journey probably around 2004, and this high school I kind of was dabbling later. Around 2015, I started to go off of food. I had my license, and so in Michigan we have a really good legal environment here. Cannabis industry for much longer than I've ever lived here. And so I got lucky to live here. And so anyways, I started and then around 2020 I started private brand. And I focused specifically on genetic, genetic, OG Kush and Congress. And so I'm not really impressed by my work with there's a couple good ones I include in the church in Ohio, but that's who I am. I'm old school Skunk, yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much. Dr. Dabney, I wanted to start with you next. As you've both grown as a home grower and also commercially, when you think of the genetics and the work and the attention that goes into your genetics, what is the differences or did you the nuances between the two that you may put into your work in different locations?
You know, like Homegrow
versus CBD work and work on the hemp dried side as well as work commercially for your brands.
Yeah. So I guess all of my work I like to use markers. So marker assisted selection. So if you've ever had a honey crisp, like analogy I like to use, if you ever had a honey crisp before, It was bred because they crossed two parents. They had a marker panel on each of the parents. So each parent had crispiness, each parent had disease resistance, each parent had certain flavor traits of interest. And then they make that cross knowing that the progeny will have those traits that are economically important. So I like to do my breeding work. I developed a bunch of markers while working at the University of Minnesota on a way to profile if a plant produces THC, CBD, or both, as well as certain terpene traits, amount of cannabinoid an individual cultivar will make, trichome head size, different economic traits. So I just like to make sure that the parents have the traits that I think are economically important before I even make that cross. And then I'll do some selection work. I'll do some traditional breeding work after that. I think that's about this. The same, that is what would stay the same for me. And my stuff I like to grow for me versus something I release on the market.
Just different particular markers that you're looking for.
Exactly.
Traits. Why don't we even step up back a little bit more? Because as purchasers of seeds in stores or online or from our friends, we see the seed as the end product, right? And so what you were getting at is in your work there's really a series of genetic markers you're going to touch on. As we see the seed, would you back up and just give us some of your thinking surrounding what goes into the different parents and then the progeny that you want to get out of that as you go through the process of creating seed?
So I guess for me, I kind of think of like, I guess cannabis is kind of like, genetics is the canvas, and breeding is kind of the brush. So you've got a pool of genetics to choose from. You can start anywhere, land-raised genetics, already improved genetics. And what you want to do just to start is kind of characterize that starting plant. Is it highly potent of THC? Does it produce CBD? Does it even have the terpene traits you're looking for? How does it grow? How easy is it to grow? Can it handle a stressful environment? Does it actually make big trichome heads? Does it make a lot of those trichome heads? So I think that step one is just to characterize your germplasm, characterize what you have, and take a real honest assessment about what it is. And a lot of traditional breeding was done on, you create a subjective scale. To you can do a 1 through 9 scale. You've got 100 plants. This one is 9 being the best. You got 2, 4, 7, 4, 4, 2, 4, 7, 9. This has a trait that's really good in this individual. I might want to hold on and watch this one. Anything under 4 or 4 and under immediately dies. I think that's one of the things at the beginning I had a lot of trouble with, was like knowing when to let go. Because you've put all this time into this thing, and that time means something to you, and you have this emotional attachment. But I think that if you want to be a good breeder, you just have to realize that things need to die. Like, that sounds really bad. But you are shaping a genome, a germplasm. You're shaping the genes of which you're going to create things from in the future. And you can't create good things with bad things. Quartz will never become a diamond.
Well, and you bring up selection and the importance of selection. I personally think that's one of the coolest things about cannabis genetics is that even though you have a pack of seeds that's a particular strain from a particular cross, you still have genetic variability that each and every one of those plants is in and of itself its own genetic combination. And, it's worthy of taking a look and seeing how that's going to grow out. I think for a lot of folks, you may not necessarily understand that volatility. When you think about volatility within cannabis genetics, I think of variance in seeds that are growing. How do you think about volatility in your breeding?
For me, the volatility or stability, to me, would be things that I haven't put a lot of work into yet. So, like, if you want to stabilize, even really good breeders that I respect, there's still a lot of this unstable characteristics. But I think as a breeder puts more and more work into a single cultivar, that seed line should be relatively true for the traits they're marketing it as. Like, does it smell like grapes? Does it have the aesthetic and bag appeal traits that they're marketing it as? Does it have this high potency thing? Do all those individuals grown out that way have that? Yes, there's still going to be some variance because, like, I think about me and my brother. I'm 6'5", he's 5'10". We're shorter than our sister. So it's just like there's variation within lines or whatever. So I think that for me, if I have a lot of variation in the work, it's just because I haven't done enough work to stabilize it yet. So usually, if you wanted to stabilize a seed line, you'd be inbreeding both of those parent generations that you already know cross well together, and then remaking that cross. So 3 to 5 generations of inbreeding, and then a cross in between, and that's how they create like F1 hybrid corn seed. So that's one method of which people use to remove that variability or instability in the genome.
You would lose a figure each time you do that process. You have inbreeding the same plant over and over again. So when you finally get it at true breeding, does it grow very good? Is that your experience too?
Definitely. And you also find like traits you didn't see before.
Yeah.
For me, I'll see a lot of Manisi or whatever, hermaphrodism. I'll find a lot of male flowerism. Once I get past 4 generations of inbreeding, yeah, things get
So Chris, what's your thinking about how volatility impacts what it is that you have done, and what's been your expectation of it? And Dane, I'm going to come up to you with this question as well. You know, to me, as someone who talks with customers every day, I think it's not necessarily critical that something is an initial F1 cross or that it's 2, 3, or 4 down the line. I feel like it's more important that it's labeled what it is. So are you going to expect, 10 soldiers to grow side by side, the same height, same shape, same color? Or should you expect that if it's a very initial first one cross, you're going to get a whole lot of traits from mom and dad expressing differently in different combinations? For some growers, they might be very interested in looking for that, something new and different.
Yeah, it's for the home growers should do their research and figure out what the breeder has in their mind. Are they only making F1s, just banging 2 good things together and then just selling those? Are they working lines? Or how far they're into those lines? How consistent their seed lines become? And then you kind of know what you're growing. If you want a lot of variance, you can only grow your 4 plants, then it's kind of nice to have an F1 or F2, because you get a lot of different stuff going on. If you're getting something like an F4s, you're going to get 4 real nice, consistent plants. So, there's just tons of variability out there. If you start inline breeding, you see so much. There's just so much out there.
Well, and the cannabis genome can really pop up different things in different plants, right? And I think
different F generations, you'll see different stuff.
Different averages across populations. And I think that's probably one of the most exciting things here in Minnesota with the legal market and smaller licenses, is that folks are able to do larger volumes of tests to really understand what a generation of seeds is showing, right? What is the pheno? Selection to me is a numbers game. I don't know, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, it's a numbers game, but you don't know what your male did until you grow its progeny. Unless you have markers done or something like that. There's no way to just smell it, look at it, and say that's the male I'm going to use and it's going to do these things. And it's just hard to have that expectation. So you have to take the time and hold on to these males, use them, grow their babies, see what it is, look for that individual, look put that in their line and see what kind of things it did to your mind.
Dane, here's the question to you as well. How do you think about volatility in your work, and are you expecting or wanting a large amount of volatility? And can you hear me at all?
Sure. I think volatility is interesting. It's kind of a gift from nature because that's the whole point of seminar seeds reality. We're trying to work phenotype. And as we dive into the Skunk number one pheno, Skunk number one was one of the projects in the 1960s brought on by Stanley Clemon. And he started with different things like and so as this was matured over time, it was one of 20,000 plants. So when I got my skunk collection, I wanted to bring up this chart here. On the screen it shows you that the ice silos here, and someone sent the feminized seeds for the cheese, and I found skunk out of it. And so the notes in there said it has a high grade grade. I found blue cheese, I found the lemon syrup, and then I found my 88, which was very skunky. And so I have to say, so that was like engagement as a fun project, and to focus on what you like. And I wrote some notes while these other guys were talking. And they are pheno are basically starting make this crops. I started growing crops this summer on my garden. I'm reading out loud. And mountain crops are tomatoes. That was created at the university, and they released so mountain crop tomatoes are pretty famous at home. And then Phylos, they also released Phylos female database. They released a bunch of chemicals too. So, needless to say, is where anything that can also be valuable. And that's where I'm working on backcross in my screen. I usually take 2 to 3 steps above, and then I backcross it into some mediate for that. But one point I wanted to talk that they didn't mention is you have to use complementary flavors, things that are naturally going to work together. You're not going to take lemon cherry gelato and breathe that out of synthetic stuff. That's a nice lemon cherry flavor, and I've used that in my golden I created my cherry skin. But anyways, I'm working on some back crossing and we actually he made a good point of letting go of things, and so that's what I've been working on is having my staples. And another interesting point is kernel size. Not everything is good seed. Basically, that can come from multiple factors like overpounding, but overpounding, like my Trinity plant, my lavender plant, they're putting out 2 seed. Whereas my Skunk 88, puts out a little and needless to say, size doesn't really matter when you look at tomato seed. But narrowing down favorable trees, the markers I've been looking at is powdered mildew. They're one of the leading problems in the industry. Basically all crops, whether it's spring, watering their walnuts, powdered mildew, and when you're looking for susceptibility to that, the mode of action of powdered mildew is you have a smoldering action at the bottom of the tomato. The plants that are basically are meat and have a smoldering mode of action, and they can close off their tomato. And so I started, I don't have a professional laboratory unfortunately at this point. However, I'm using my senses to right. And I found in Trinity, which is a skunk strain from California, that's basically immune to high immunity. So I started working with that, and when I crossed the skunk line is that when I cook, there's a strain you can British Columbia. I just started using the male already. And then the brown cherries. And so again, marker, brown cherries, that's what I'm looking for. And that carried over into my right. And so I found this time, one was medium to powdered mildew and smell less like the tuna. And the second phenotype I found is less immune to powdered mildew for the reason of the brown cherry. So I hope I've explained that to you a little bit. Feel free to ask me questions now.
No, I think you covered that really well. You know, you mentioned some terpenes are really dominant as they come through on the crops. Is there any that really catch you off the top of your head that are more so than others? Lemon cherry gelato you mentioned.
Definitely my roadkill. When people are looking for the skunk spray roadkill, and there's a rubber roadkill, which is tiny cheetah varieties. You can get burnt rubber. And so, for example, I'm working at open footage, and that's a good starting point for looking at high lemonine and have nice gassy lemonine flavor to it. But I'm really enjoying my 90s and I've made some seeds with that.
Thank you, Dane.
When I look at the times you could, I'll be looking for the Ryan Cherry snout those. Thanks.
Thanks, Dane. Dr. Dabney, I was going to come back to you on dominant terpenes. As you're working through between a mom and a dad, is there just some terpenes that tend to genetically dominate over others that you found, or would you maybe just comment on that thought? Kind of the what ends up coming out in the end when you're putting two different things together?
So one of the things that I found is, work at the university is that lemonine or sweetness is kind of usually it gets inherited very similarly to THC and CBD. So you're either dominant in lemonine, intermediate in lemonine and alpha-pinene, or dominant in alpha-pinene. At least I didn't even do the study to see which one was dominant over the other one. Like dominant versus recessive. But yeah, terpene genetics are really interesting because the terpene syntheses are so promiscuous. So in chemistry or biochemistry, promiscuous enzyme is an enzyme that can create multiple products. So even though the lemonine synthase makes predominantly lemonine, it'd be like 60%, it might make 10% myrcene, 3 or 4% chlorothalene, and a bunch of other things. So even monoterpene synthesis can make sesquiterpenes. Sesquiterpene synthesis can make monoterpenes in small amounts. So the terpene genetics is actually quite, hard to nail down when it's not very simple. But we kind of seen something that for us in the hemp industry, or anybody who's in the hemp industry, is like, the reason we had to stay under that 0.3 level and people were having problems going hot is that CBDA synthase is promiscuous for THC. It makes predominantly CBD, but it also makes a little bit of THC. And we had to find those enzymes that were much more effective at making CBD, and those were the ones in the cultivars for high CBD cultivars. So I hope that answered that.
Well, and for CBD, it's a little bit of a different story too, because they were looking for that extremely low THC on a very consistent basis, and that doesn't necessarily lead to easy to cross things to make sure that that second, third, fourth, fifth generation, primarily from seed, right? Most hemp growers are putting seed out into the field. They're not taking clones of something that they found and said, this one tests below, I expect it to grow in the right proportions going forward, right? And so that's just it's a different beast, so to speak.
I don't think it was
Different
really
consequences,
based
too.
in any really scientific fact.
It's a hard one, yeah.
How was 0.3% chosen? It wasn't based in science.
has a very that much. That's what we all agree. Feeling to it. Yeah, it definitely does. Well, Chris, as you think about, and again, swing back to dominated terpenes, is there a series of kind of categories of terpenes that when you put them together, you tend to find one thing comes up more than the next? Or what's your general thought?
Terpenylene is hard to get rid of in anything I've been breeding. It's pretty dominant, and I don't know. I struggle with some monoterpenes where it's just like one thing, it smells really good, and then you put it in a jar and you come back to it and it's gone. And then you kind of have to go back to the drawing boards to have more terpenes in its plant. So you need a combination of 2 or 3 things is one reason.
That's really interesting to point out too, because
I've definitely had that problem with a lot of things that taste like with banana flavors, the esters. Those esters just like fly away.
Mine was the herbally kind of
so for a little more context for everyone else, if your bud has one terpene, and that particular terpene constitutes the vast majority of what is there, has its own boiling point, right? It could be 88 degrees, could be 72 at certain pressures, right? And so if you're not careful with the handling of it, your bud could end up losing a lot of those terpenes just to evaporation. And so if you have more of a kaleidoscope of other terpenes that are present in your cannabis, you're going to lose or pick up those at different rates as you move through the drying and curing process too, right?
Yeah,
So I think that's a really great point to know. As you're thinking about seed breeding, and as you're thinking about putting together the different combinations of parents, at least be aware of it.
Because it fooled me because this plant was so great a week after harvest, 2 weeks after harvest, and then it was just gone. And it was baffling me. It was a curing thing or storage thing, and I just couldn't get my mind wrapped around it. And I thought I had to cut it earlier. I could just try many different things, and it was always the same result. And then I read like it's probably just disappearing. I'm like, oh, I didn't think about that. It just evaporates, you know, it's just gone.
Yeah, when you open up your dry tent and all you do is smell weed, that's your terpenes. They evaporate. Yeah. Hey Dane, when you think about the dominant terpenes and the parts that have separated your versions of skunk, do you see those come through in the next generation pretty easy, or is it harder to reduce the volatility of that intended terpene?
Honestly, both the clouds and molecule itself, the tire most of it, as they said, and it came out in the last. My skunk were all kind of sweet, but as it brought to the jar, it's still smoky. But as it brought to the jar, they're lean, then it's just it's pretty skunky. So you need a little bit of curing time to bring out flavor. And I noticed this time around that vinyl actually a little bit of the vinyl. And I looked at their smoke after about 60 to 90 days. That was kind of that smoke kind of thing that see how it's doing. But I enjoyed that. And it's important to educate people on your palate. Let's talk about wine right now. We're actually wine. They're going to have a front flavor and a back flavor palate. And so when you're breeding, you need to be aware that the marker is always be a front flavor palate. So if you're starting with strawberry banana for tea, it's always going to be a front flavor palate. And where you're changing is with the male. The male is where the magic's at. And that's the most important part of your breeding project is your male. And you're not designing a female like male. And that leaves the back family. And so I'm telling you guys, next time you expose, if you grow your bee properly, you should have a nice front flavor palate and then a back. My colleague in Skunk is high in lemonine as well. But it's paperwork. It's even 100% lemonine. I wouldn't say it's 100%, but it's more dominant. I promised that one trying to dissipate and fix around for a while. The one good thing about that is that it's mold resistant. I can throw that out. So I think there is various characteristics that come with the flavor profile and terpene profile.
Do you, in your work, feel that your terpenes are more strongly expressed with the male? Or is that something not necessarily correlated mom or dad?
Well, exactly. My experiment this time around, roots and fruit male I have. I'm looking across with the female, but the male carries through little lime sherry, and that's little lime sherry mustard fish. I can't hold up to it and it's an infamous sticky scrape of root seed cornmeal. And then we put it in it. So I picked up a packet of piece for a paper bag.
Dr. Dabney, kind of that same line of questioning. When you think about your moms that you're selecting, at least for your most recent lines with A&D Genetics, you had one dad and a lot of moms. Do you want to, what came through more strongly from the mom or dad? Different parts, or also just what were you thinking from the moms that you were selecting?
I guess the moms I was selecting for had I guess variations and traits. So I knew the dad had bag appeal and very high numbers of large trichomes, and a pretty neutral terpene backbone. And so I was trying to cross him into a bunch of varying terpene traits, as well as like a couple different post-harvest handling uses. So like it's an indoor washing versus like a fresh flower.
Was moms dominant on some of those key traits? Which side of the house does mom and dad fall on? Is there a general basis for those?
I don't think it matters. I mean, does it have the traits or not? I guess there is going to be some. It's not like does it have a trait or not, or how they stack up. But it's like how do they complement each other? So like sometimes I'll make a series of a lot of crosses with a one thing. It's like they call it general combining ability. You're like trying to see how well two genetics work together. And what it does to it in the next generation. So I think that I kind of think sometimes my breeding work ends up in like I like to do those panels because then I can see how well things are breeding together, and then a lot of things won't reach each other. Depending on how the result of this turn out.
Would you be kind enough to share any current work and even just give a little bit of what the timeline is to, or a sense of timeline, right? So for mom and dad joining together, that's like 4 or 5 months to get seeds, and picking and selecting children is another 4 or 5 months. When you think of these projects to read back cross, I'm starting to see another 4 or 5 months, and before we know we're 2 years down the line. But if there's something in the works that you wouldn't mind sharing some thoughts or considerations on for us to look for in the future.
So I've been doing some work on a project where I'm looking at a bunch of different. I guess I surveyed out a bunch of different what we call like classic backgrounds, and doing some marker work in crossing classics together to make, I guess, new varieties, but because I think more of my A&D genetics work has largely been kind of more contemporary cultivars, is what I've been working with. So it's cool to kind of reach back into the classics and see the diversity in those, in that germplasm. And so I've been working, breeding these classics because I licensed out Jesse Ventura Seeds line. So I'll be doing a line of branded classics for Jesse's brand. So it's been cool to kind of compare and contrast. That project is very different than what I traditionally work on. It's like I kind of want enamored with the hype stuff. I want my friends to be proud of my stuff, and I think that it's a different idea of breeding more traditional strains with for a brand that's more traditional.
We've started to see more and more of that where OG Kush is getting crossed with something else, or Derby Poison is coming forward with like Derby Poison, or those classic flavors like Clam Dog or just Red and Purple coming forth in new ways with new moms and dads to kind of add those same flavors, but in a new modern twist, which I kind of feel is cool after the last 10 years where we've had a lot of cherries and berries. A lot of runs, absolutely. And so to see classics come anew with a little bit different bag appeal and shape and color, I think it's kind of cool work with you guys are doing. Chris, any thoughts or any interesting items you guys are working on at BBC projects you're on?
Not really at the moment. I kind of slowed things down for the new adventures, but still hold on to some moms and hopefully doing some back crossing with some males. See, I like to use males to back cross because it's easier for me to figure out what's in it and how it's going. It takes more of the mother's traits onto the progeny. Each time you back cross, you select a male, you're just getting more and more and more of the same thing for a more stable line for some of my folks. So.
I'll follow up on that. So then do you keep your male, and your male is the piece you keep back crossing into the next progeny to lock in your traits? Is that what you're saying?
I'll take a male breed with my original mother. I'll take those progeny, grow it out, look for another male that's very, very similar
Progeny
to
male.
with those traits that I'm looking for. And just continue that process until that's kind of how the Cindy 99 guy, Brothers Green, that's his process. And he's trying to see if it's working.
Interesting. Thank you. Dane, before we wrap up, any fun things that you guys are working on or that Skunk really works that you wouldn't mind sharing with us?
You know what? Sure, I got it. How much time?
Oh, we got a little bit. I think we'll do a few audience questions here right after your thoughts here.
This is the CRISPR, the Cannabis CRISPR pen. And I explored the process of creating an laboratory designed skunk strain, and they did a lot of their general crop. They're called my floor plan. However, there's some other guys in this tree that I've also and so though they are and so he's happening that and happening but the whole process behind that, if you guys want me to have a whole opinion on that, I can, or I can do a blog on my there. The whole process of designing things, and then you have to have the government come in and approve the product. The one limitation, you have a kind of a new inspired design seed is that you can't market it out of the state where it's created. So if it was created in California, you are limited to an action that could be anywhere else in the place. And so I've researched that a little bit. So if you want to look into 321 MD, you can Google it, and I've been working on SEO a lot, so I'll let you guys know that if you're going to see me a lot more online. And so that's one thing I'm really excited about is making my brand more visibility. And so I've been using AI to help me out with a lot of my marketing and various things. I have a marketing tool, but me and AI are pretty dangerous. And so anyways, I want to hear more of what I got here. I got a ton of work there. But I hope that they do.
You were breaking up just a hair there. Dane, would you mind touching base back on the CRISPR part?
Oh, I heard this CRISPR, yeah.
I'll try. I'm not an expert, but I'll try it. And maybe the other panelists can help. So what do you guys want to know about CRISPR?
Well, I thought you were saying you're doing work with CRISPR, so I was very curious of what you're doing.
So that company is, I got lucky, and they did a whole study on this molecule. It's called 321 MBT. And so they were very aware of the process.
Yeah, I get it.
You go from, you're basically creating a payload. And basically they're injecting it with your generation. And the way he explained it is, the way he's not going to tap out and you actually go ahead and plant those seeds and then put the timer. So even though you are creating a brand new strain, the last time strain, you still have to see the timer. So I think that's pretty important.
Thank you, Dane.
But if you guys can steer the conversation, we get answer.
I think we're going to ask for a few questions. Was there any curiosities out in the room today? Did anyone questions from the crowd time? Go ahead. I think I saw your hand first.
Yeah, when you're doing like a home breeding project and you have a little less space, how do you go about selecting your males maybe earlier without putting them into, you know, all of them into full bloom, maybe narrow it down earlier in the process?
Take a clone and flower your clone. Get little bits of pollen from your little clone. That's kind of the best way. Then you keep your dad around. Yeah, I don't know.
Hey, Bob. No, it's not.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so I think that's a way is like taking cuts, putting them in 12-12 and flower them out. There's also companies you can send little discs of tissue to, like Medicinal Genomics and their competitors, I guess, where they can sex it for you and you have to answer back in like a week. Is that what you're asking?
No. I was like trying to find the traits you desire in the male, maybe without, you know, the full 8 or so weeks of grooming on the male. I didn't know if
I always just fully flower mode, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
That's when you're really going to see like all the bud flower development, you know, like you can get a good look at it. Like, if you just have a few bananas here and there, you're not going to really get a good, you know.
And I would say that keeping that clonal archive so that you have each one of those males. So if you do find a male you want to work with, you've got that maintained. But
Yeah. Sometimes you'll know right away too. You'll just smell it. You'll have that. If you're hunting for a specific genome or terpene or something, sometimes you just know. You'll just grow this thing out and be like, wow, this is great structure. Smell that stem rub, and it's got huge flowers on it, you know, male flowers, and you just kind of know. It's hard to find one. They're 1 in a million, but if you do find one, you'll know.
So I think you're a little bit saying what do you select, or how can you select a male? And some of it is when you find that 1 in 100 or 1 in 1,000, it jumps out compared to everything else.
Yeah. You'll look at your population and you'll say, oh, that's ugly. That's, oh wow, this is really, oh man, it's a male. You know, I look for female characteristics in my males. You know, I don't want them to be super tall and lanky and I want like a lot of shoots, stick them out the bottom, grow, bushy. I look for those kind of traits, like vigor. And if you're not going to get a smell, you can reverse them too. That's kind of a different path, which you can actually turn the male into a female and go down that road. YouTube that. It's not. It's time consuming. It depends on how much time you have on the hands.
Hey, can you come up and talk into Bob's microphone?
Thank you.
If you have a question, could you go up and talk into Bob's microphone? Thanks.
Do you have a question? You guys come in this area. Thank you so much.
When you're talking about markers, are you doing like a toilet pedal on plants, or what are you using?
Close.
You said something about the clone library for the tissue culture as well.
So yeah, so for the markers, I guess I developed them during my thesis at the university. So we use the CS10 genome. You can download that on NCBI, and all of our work is in a folder that you can download. And it's the problem with it is it's relatively expensive. Like you want to have a program like Genius. You're going to upload. Basically, you're uploading the genome into there, and then you're basically adding different tracks. And you have like marker tracks, gene tracks, as well as like the transposon tracks. So basically, I guess I developed a set of markers, and they are public data, so you can download those.
So then you can grow your meat and test them back to those markers.
Yes, if you have more stuff.
Yeah.
So like I have a PCR machine, gel electrophoresis. So I've done, there's more work that happens on the back end too that would require some hardware. But the markers have been, there's actually lots of sets of markers now that have been developed by different universities. Cornell has one, so there's Colorado, University of, I can't remember which university of Colorado, but they have one as well.
That's a pretty extensive program. Utah State too.
And there was like a second part to your question. All those markers and
Clone library, are you using tissue culture for things like that?
I've done tissue culture, but I don't currently. When I say clone library, I'm just saying like you have a limited number of plants. In my personal opinion, an unrooted plant isn't a plant yet. It is a branch. I don't know. That's how we treated it at the university. It wasn't yet an individual. So in my opinion, you could have as many clones as you wanted, but so I would like if you're searching for this male, let's say you pop 10 seeds from the males. You're looking for a good male. I would clone each one of those 5 males, and then when I flowered it out, I know that number 4 was the best of those 5. And since I've already flowered it out, and it may not time right with my females, you could hold on to number 4 if you have this. I call it like a clone library.
You can have it
Clone from the clone.
You can hold on to that tag. You can take a clone of a clone of a clone, just keep it small. You don't have to have this huge plant you've had it for 5 years in your house. You can keep it as small as a pop can. And don't give it a lot of attention, just keep it alive.
I'm a big fan of small plants. They take up small square footage. I know we're out in number count, but small plants often are really nice plants. And it's helpful if you're trying to keep things around for a long time. I definitely agree. Another question?
First time caller. So I'm making an assumption that we have to select for low potency, that might have secondary and tertiary consequences when you don't have to be constrained by breeding for low potency. Does that free up other secondary and tertiary traits that you might be breeding for, or is that not really an issue?
Kind of yes and no. For if you're breeding for THC high plants, you can easily do that, but you are going to miss out on all the good stuff. You know, I've made a lot of celery terps and horrible potato flavored weed, but really high THC. And for the lower THC stuff like the CBD, I think it is more achievable to find that like a good terp than low THC. Is that what you found out that you, when you were breeding the CBD, didn't have like aromas that were? Yeah.
Got its own new and unique CBD.
Yeah.
There's a bunch where we found where it smelled like baby diapers, like sewage.
In the CBD line?
In feral Minnesota cannabis.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah, there's a lot that were just very, the sulfur compounds were high.
You know, I was chatting with someone about sun-grown here in Minnesota with our feral cannabis. I think there's actually some features in there where you're getting some souvenirs in your bag, and you might end up with something really interesting that comes out.
Yeah.
I've played with it for many years. It's not worth it.
I'll echo that sentiment. Is that like most of feral cannabis is really low potency, pretty small trichome head size, and most of the time CBD. But there are some traits there. I think if you wanted to like breed a fiber variety for a Minnesota fiber plant, totally there's some really cool genes there, earliness genes. And morphology traits. But I don't know. I don't think that Minnesota feral's ready for prime time. You wouldn't want to grow it in your tent downstairs.
Might be fun to put in the backyard though.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Got those boys down, give your neighbors since they're fighting out there. Is there any last questions for this evening? All right. I want to thank everyone for coming out. I want to thank Dr. Dabney for being here. Really appreciate it. Chris Mo from BPCs. I also want to thank for making it out tonight. Dane Thiesen from Skunk really works. Thank you so much for working with us on the technical issues, but we made it through the evening. It's a first for us having someone join us from out of state. And I just want to say thank you and have a great evening.
I want to say thanks to Bob and the host and everybody here at Earl Isles.
And one other quick thing, if you get a chance, check out the Minnesota Craft Cannabis Guild website. Sign up for our newsletter. We're giving information on what the panels upcoming are, dates and times as well. And if you get onto a chance on YouTube, we are recording these and putting them up for everyone to take a look in the future. Give us a like, subscribe, hit the bell and everything. So thank you so very much for making it out tonight.
Thank you.